Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Well, Carly, the AJHL playoffs continued last night with our last regional team in action.
Yes, unfortunately, the playoffs continued and then came to a close for the Bonnyville Pontiac. So both of the teams sort of in our region now are done. But the exciting thing that was a great series. So we've got some really juicy highlights for everybody to take a look at tonight.
Coming up in sports. Nice weather outside again, Gerard.
Yeah, we've got another one that we can savor and say, yeah, that was a gooder.
A gooder, it was.
But Old Man Winter is wanting to give us a little reminder, so we have a 24-hour period or so that we need to get through, all right? Let's take a first look at it, please, because we're still at -1. We're cooling off ever so slowly. We got a high of 0 Celsius earlier on at around 2 o'clock, 79% humidity. The wind's out of the east-southeast at 21 kilometers an hour, and the wind chill is at -7. And what we are looking at across the region, +1 in the Lakeland and +1 as well in the Battlefords. But we do have some precipitation later on to talk about, some buildup of cloud cover. We'll get to that, Jenna, shortly. Meantime, it's back to you.
Maidstone RCMP are investigating after a crash on Highway 303 this morning left at least one person along with several cattle dead. Mounties closed the intersection of 303 and Grid Row 684 directly north of Waseca for several hours as a collision analyst examined the scene. Officials were warning the public to use extreme caution on Lloydminster area roads today. Many highways and grid roads were covered with ice and pockets of thick fog. Highway 303 remains closed this hour. We have an update now on a story we brought you last week. On Sunday, March 6th, the RCMP responded to a request by a man who had concerns about a family member's well-being at a residence in Glassland, Saskatchewan. Police located 2 bodies at the residence and determined they were the home's sole occupants. A 51-year-old woman was found outside and a 56-year-old was found inside the house. The investigation determined that one occupant of the residence was killed by the other, who then took her own life. The names of the deceased as well as the manner of their deaths will not be released at the request of the families. It's not uncommon to see cell phones in the workplace, but a recent occurrence in Estevan saw a city worker getting fired for excessive texting while on the clock. Jack Haskins reports on what the local perspectives are when it comes to texting in the workplace.
Many organizations now implement strict cell phone policies. This isn't exactly the case when it comes to Lloydminster city workers.
Of course, safety of employees and safety of residents, especially employees that are out running graders and trucks and things, is the most important. But they do use texting in a work situation, and when it's used specifically for work, it's really successful.
Lloydminster city officials believe in an honor system policy when it comes to non-work related cell phone use.
The fact that people do make texts on their own time, as far as it's the same with personal calls. Personal phone calls can be made on breaks or on time when you're not spent at your desk or not spent in your equipment, and that's absolutely fine. We want to respect the fact that employees have lives and they have other things that are going on in their day as well.
Meanwhile, the Lloydminster Public School Division has taken a different approach regarding student cell phone usage.
An analogy I heard is that when paper came into use, we didn't ban paper because students were writing notes. We have to, as educators, find ways to work with the technology and not ban it per se, just because inappropriate use might be used by it.
Due to the ever-changing nature of technology, members of the school board will have to constantly adjust their cell phone policies in the future.
On one hand, we want to be diligent and we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. But on the other hand, we don't want to lose the possibility because it's going to continue to evolve. But it's incumbent upon us to make sure that our students are safe and secure.
While some businesses may be looking at revising their cell phone plans, the city doesn't have any plans of changing their own unless texting becomes a problem in the future. Jack Haskins, Newcap News.
March is Fraud Awareness Month, and it seems there is no shortage of schemes when it comes to trying to get people to part with their money. Shauna Roshak has more on the face of fraud and what to do if you are a victim of this rapidly growing criminal activity.
In Canada alone, this type of activity is a lucrative business for con artists, stealing millions of hard-earned dollars from innocent people.
In 2010, $53 million was scammed, I'll say, out of citizens from our country in various forms of frauds.
Anyone can become a victim, leaving them vulnerable and giving criminals what they want, money.
They'll try and Google your name. They'll try and find bank account information somehow. Maybe they'll send you an email and ask you for your date of birth, your banking information, and that's called a phishing scheme.
Corporal Knelson recommends to never publish personal information and to always follow up with the person requesting details.
The letter frauds, the email frauds, the phone frauds, they're just throwing it out there to see who's going to grasp and send them some money.
Obtaining this information is easier than you think.
A lot of times they'll just pick up a phone number from off the internet, or they'll get your information somehow and they'll phone you and see if you will contribute to, I guess, their main goal, which is getting profits from you.
This type of criminal activity is occurring not only in major cities, but also here in Lloydminster. Corporal Knelson says it's hard to track these criminals down as the place of origin can be anywhere.
We do have instances quite often where people are bringing these letters down to us, bringing these emails down to us. So it is prevalent in the community.
Corporal Knelson says if you receive an email or a letter that is suspicious, bring it to the RCMP for them to investigate. She also says if it's too good to be true, it is. Shauna Roshuk, Newcap News.
Creepy, crawly bed bugs are becoming a widespread problem, including in the border city. We'll have more on how to avoid a bed bug bite coming up after the break.